Wood turners, I'm Captain Eddie Castle and welcome to my shop. This is exciting times. I'm making an ornamented cap for a jar. And I want to finish one little step before I give you the formal introduction and explain a little bit more about it. Stick with me for 1 minute. There. Now, we're doing something on Lathezilla today, and I've had a lot of questions because I've referred to them when I've shown this piece. Well, take a look at this. This is a small pink jar that I did to surprise my wife with a part of her wedding ring set. Surprise nothing, she almost told me what to go order. But still, I did this lid. Now this lid is made out of plexiglass, but I order Lexan now from a display company. What I was using was pieces of bulletproof. Alright, you go to a bank in a questionable neighborhood and they have that bulletproof screen in front that they, a bullet resistant screen that they pass things through and all that. That's 1.25 inches, 1 3/8 thick. I had about 1,000 pounds of that when I finished building a bank 10 years ago. I might have 20 pounds left somewhere in here, but don't have it readily available. So now I'm buying Lexan, and I'm getting a 5x12 sheet for about 20 bucks shipped to me. Not bad. Gotta find me a better, cheaper source. Really, I gotta find me a source more than bulletproof stuff. Because I do like that acrylic. It cuts nice. Now, what are we doing? You've seen this piece. Here's another one that I did. Same kind of thing with the Lexan. But Lathezilla does other things. In fact, I'm going to pop up a couple and I'll talk about them in a voiceover of the different things that we've done on Lathezilla so you can see the versatility of this machine. So you know if I'm going to play something, what you got to do. Yep, you got to watch. Let's take a look at a couple of pieces that I've done in the past. This is a simple Kokomo box. You can see where I've got an 18 spire flute going around the bottom. Now, don't pay attention to the finial because that was done on a conventional lathe. It can also be done in an ornamental, but I have a video on how to do that on a conventional lathe. See how the white and the black accent. This is a simple step-out pattern that I put on a piece of black wood. Made a lid out of it for the top of this, again, Cocobolo piece. You can see how when you step this pattern out, you add the waves or the lines, which gives the texture. This is a knockoff of a Heinz Weisflog circle piece. Why did I show you this? Because with a simple router attachment, you can do this and it cuts it very cleanly, very uniformly, and the steps are extremely even. So this is a nice little piece to play around with. This is a rocker, the bottomless box. Now this finial I did on Lathezilla. I built an offset jig to hold the finial so that every time it rocked it had a different position. I've got a video on how to build that jig. And this is one of my proudest pieces. This is a piece of mesquite wood that I fluted using that same pointed or helical template that I showed you earlier. And this time I did it with gild and lined it and polished it out. This is really a nice piece. And here's a 3-on-6 bump rose in a corian insert for the top of a box. Yes, you can cut corian, but you want to pick the darker colors on the more solid colors because it stands out better. That's just a look at some of the pieces. Would you like to know some basics of the machine? Really? Okay. Number one, It's just like a tracer or a duplicator made for the machining industry. The head moves at a fairly slow rate of speed. Now, I've got a variable speed motor on a Performax sander. You know the belt drive motor for the Performax? That's the motor, that's the drive. So, see how it bounces like those. But I've got it rigged to where I can get up there to some speed when I'm using a router to round things off, etc. A router? Yeah. We'll talk about the cutting mechanisms in a minute. But the head moves at a relatively slow speed because on the back end of the head there's a follower back there. Yeah, way back there. There's a follower. And that follower is following a cutout hardboard template like this. Now these templates are made by a dozen people. They're all over the internet. They have a pattern on them, a very exact pattern. I've got them with 4 bumps, 5 bumps, 6 bumps. To get flat spots, to do square containers, 6-sided, 7-sided, 8-sided. This is 1, 2, 3 bumps on 8 patterns, so this is 3 on 8. And a lot of these had a code on them, or a number. I guess this setup, this early one, I didn't put the code on it. But I have those in about 45, 55 shapes. Some pretty elaborate, and some come out looking like an actual rose petal. Now, when you do this stuff, what happens, this follower, way back here, you want to see a little closer? Let me reset it. What you're seeing right now is this follower reading this template. I have 3 templates back here. I have a 4-lobe that gives me essentially a square. I have one that's got scallops on it that'll give me way out point the star. You saw that on the box. Here's what the scallop looks like when you cut a box inside and then outside with the scallop. Okay. And then I have this one here that's cutting the 3 bumps on 6. There's 6 lobes, each one having 3 bumps. Now I've got more. I got a huge stack of them, and depends on what my whim is. And here's one here. Here's 3 lobes to give me a triangle shaped piece. The scallop gives me this. You see it? Okay. Both parts of it. Now you can getting up here so you can see it. See the star on it, on the bottom, and then a cutting around the outside. And then I would cut the opposite of this, the negative of this, into another piece of blackwood or redwood or whatever for it to slip into, as seen in a piece like this. Now, I have misplaced the remote. Now we can get pulled back. Okay. Now, each pattern will cut 2 distinct patterns, or each rose. This rose. Okay. Now, let's say, and I had them stacked here a minute ago. Oh, here they are. I cut these out of a piece of masonite when I first had the rosettes made. And this tells me more, or gives me a little bit better explanation about what the cutters can do. So I'm going to go through and say, number 2 with a cutter on the near side does this. Same rose, will do that. So you see the difference? Same pattern. I call it near side, far side. Right now, that rider is on this side, and I'm cutting on this side. If I don't cut on this side coming out and decide to go that direction, I get 180 degrees of the pattern. I go from this to this. So I go from the outside, a box I can cut the inside and the outside on, to something that would really be unique when I cut the inside and outside on. See the differences? I know it's confusing. I have to play with it a little bit. Alright. Some it doesn't change much. But it did change it. Now what I did was had all my rosettes cut on a CNC machine. Then I came home and mounted them one at a time. Put them on there. Stuck this on a faceplate. It's just a piece of hardboard, and I cut the pattern based on the center. So I cut it going one way, I cut it going the other way. Then I played around a little bit and combined them, or let a round one in the middle keep it from going all the way in, so I added a flat spot, or allowed it to go all the way in, so I created a groove. There's some people that really play with these patterns. Then you change this from a rubbing bumper to a wider one that will read the patterns differently, or a bumper with 3 ridges, etc., etc., etc. Really cool. You need to check out a website. There's a guy, a watchmaker named David Lindau. Here's his website. Go to David's website and look at some of the stuff that he's done based upon this, and some of the rubbers and bumpers and readers and stuff that he has. Really unique. Now I'll tell you about the cutters next. Everything's based upon actually cutting. And if I look past you to look over there, there's a good looking guy on the TV over there. I mean, that's fun. Okay. Once you have it moving and it's reading a pattern, you have to cut the pattern. You see, your tool is moving to do the cutting. There isn't a chisel or a gouge to do this. So, in this rig, let me see, yeah, alright. You can see this motor back here, right back here. That's a DC motor with a controller. Did that show up? No. With a controller, that's a retrofit kit for a 1014 Jet Mini Lathe. So I've got a Powermatic drive motor. The other motor is a 1014 variable speed kit, which I'm only using 1 speed on, but the motor had the right weight. It's counterbalanced over and pulls on this cutter frame. This cutter frame was made for and by David Lindau at Lindau White. The head on it will rotate so this cutter attacks at different angles. Doesn't really do a lot on the straight on, a little, but on the side, big difference. Basket weave patterns, all kinds of fancy things. And I don't do a lot of side pieces on jars, mainly because I have a little bit on my plate and I don't find time to do it some days. Alright, now, another type of cutter. I had a fellow out of St. Louis make me this years ago. This is the same fly cutter, same bar, same clip, everything else. It's driven by a 1/15 horsepower motor I got at Granger. This is a Dayton motor from Granger. And it turns at 8,000 RPMs. And the gear driving from this pulley to this one is about 1-to-1. So I'm pretty even on 8,000 RPMs. Just a few minutes ago, I took my digital tachometer and I checked the speed right here. That's moving at 4,000 RPMs. That's the idler wheel from here to here. So I've taken this motor from 1,700 to about 4,400, but it's half horsepower. I was moving that at 8,000 because it was less than a 15th horsepower. It's a 10th horsepower, I believe. Oh, it was a 15th, pardon me. And I needed the speed in order to get the power. But now with this, I'm cutting pretty good. Now I've got a rig that'll drive this with the half, but it's Do you know my buddy Rube Goldberg? He helped me engineer this thing. He's a great guy. But man, he come up with some rigs. All right. I mean, just take a look at this overhead thing. Can you see it? Is it showing up? This ugly mess here to where I pivot at and I move back and forth and slide back. That's one of Rube's finest pieces. Okay. And I've got wheels from sliding doors, screen doors for offsets, and all kinds of stuff. But there are rigs out there. Check David's website, and there's a few others. And there's actually there's a website dedicated to International Association of Ornamental Turners or something like that. And there's all kinds of people come up with rigs, and it's all made out of pipe and it balances. I do this with, do you know the little bit of change you normally find in a suit when you forget that there's silver in the pocket? With that money. Okay. Power belt coming down, running this, turning this. What is this? I've got one right here. So let me show you what this is. And this is as close to original equipment as I could get. I had this copied by somebody or from somebody. Let me see if I can do that. All right. I'm on this Movember thing for Men's Health. Not shaving, but you see the cutter? You see that little cutter right there? That's a little triangle cutter. There are two of them. They're called fly cutters. 1, 2. And they use a little bitty fine thread screw. Now I sell these cutters. I had a lot of these cutters made because I was paying $8 to $10 a piece for these cutters. Now, you do a piece of aluminum and you misjudge something, you crank it and you break a cutter. You can't save a broken cutter. Some days you just hit on a hard piece of wood and make a mistake or bump the machine or whatever. You can't save a cutter. At $8, $10 a cutter, I couldn't handle that. So I commissioned a company that manufactures my cutters. I can sell you these for $3. Now I got panned by one of the experts that said, the problem with these is the radius on the end is not 0.0057132225 and it's this and that. Okay, you want a $10 to $12 cutter? Go buy a $10 to $12 cutter. You want a cutter to play with? I'll give them to you for $3 a piece and a pack of 10. That's right. $3 a piece, you buy 10. I'll even throw in the screws. You got to call me for that deal at this number right here. Yeah, that's not on my website. Give me a call. If you have a fly cutter, if you have a bar and you want to juke it into a piece of spinning wood, don't call me about that little bitty cutter. It won't work. I'm fresh out of Band-Aids, so I can't sell it to you. I want to talk about other cutters and what really happens over here. As you can see up close, this is moving to the pattern. In and out, back and forth, and very slowly going around. Slowly because that cutter head's got to cut it. Now, that cutter head is a fly cutter. I can replace this whole rig right here with a router, a 1/4-inch router, using little straight cut bits, bullet cut bits, square cut bits, little veining cutters to do similar patterns. Similar, not exact, because the router leaves a different track than this does. Now, what is all this about? This, let me get you over here where you can see it. This is a tool post. This rig, and this is my adjustment knob for height right now, is because this cutter has to be cutting at center to give me the cut I'm looking for. Now, I'm going to close in and show you two cutters, two pieces. We see how the light works here. Alright. You're looking at one. Now look right at the center. Directly at the center. Do you see that it's slightly askew? As you're looking at it, the left side is slightly lower than the right side. Do you realize that is less than a 1/20th of an inch? Yeah, but from one side to the other, it becomes a 1/10 of an inch. Now, that's just a cutter not being at the center. The difference is this. Whoop, let me get it over here. This one was cut at the center. I'm sorry, I put it down in the dust. That one was cut at the center. And you can see the lobes are even. They cut out even. Now, what difference does that make? I mean, we're talking minuscule remark. This whole thing is based upon minuscule measurements and directions. This vise moves 1/10 of an inch every crank of the handle, and I only move it 1/8 of a crank each time. So that's 1/80th of an inch is my adjustment. Same thing for the long one. 1/80th of an inch is the maximum adjustment when I'm making adjustments on it. Now, there's better slides. I don't have one. It's not my Rube project money. So, what if you're not centered like this? Well, if you do this to fit into a jar like this picture, and you're not centered, these will not fit into the other one. They won't go. They'll be off just a little bitty bit. They'll stand high, proud. Look, you'll look down over the top and see gaps around the loops. Those are problems. That's not a perfect piece. If you're doing this, it's watchmaker perfect. Now, here's another one. See this? This is a pattern for, whoop, I'm getting the right spot, for one side. Now, I want you to look at the very top up here. Do you see that's a smile with a point? Here's another one. Do you see that that's not a smile? You see the difference? Near side, far side. This one will slide into this one. But this, alright, it's like when you've got a piece that slips inside It's like the positive and the negative. The positive and the negative. Same template. You have to cut one from one side, one on the other side to make it work. That's cutters. Oh, by the way, I have adapted an NSK cutter, only to break a whole lot of tips, but it's great for real fine inscribing. I have a carbide one for putting details on aluminum and other pieces, and I'll be doggone, but I've got a piece stuck on the lathe up here that I want to show you that is stuck, and I might not be able to, nope, can't pry it off. See if we just zoom in back there and show it to you. You wouldn't believe the Rube Goldberg of the bracket I have in that right now. But this is a piece of aluminum. It's cut to the rose pattern. It was a very thin piece of aluminum cut to the rose pattern. I think I epoxied it on here. This is to check the stem on the finials that I turn on with the spoke machine to see if they're going straight, if it's going straight, or to the same dimension. A lot goes into this machine, a whole lot, and a whole lot more than a lot of folks realize. It's addictive. I'm going to go back to cutting on this piece. I'll put a little bit of it up, but essentially what you want to do is take a look at the rosettes and the patterns and then blend them into something you can work with. The project I'm currently working on, I'm going to back this out a little because that rosette is really done well, and I'm going to take this out 3/10 of an inch and then start back in again. And you do so very gently, because what happens if you go too hard too fast? You blow a cutter. And if you're buying this Whittier circle cutter, you're at $10 a pop. If you buy my cutter, you're $3 a pop in a pack of 10. I got panned by one of the experts on it because they're looking for the expert finish. Now get this, when this expert got started, it was making these, this lathe was made out of MDF plywood. There are plans out there to make these out of MDF plywood. They're all over the place. And they're fun to build. Now let me get down to the folks that asked me about this. I'm going to give you a little bit of history. Because of the way mine cuts, this right here is my dust avoidance device. The cooling fan on the bracket for a lamp, for a table lamp, it's a cooling fan out of a computer, and I put it up here and it blows the dust and dirt that way. Rube helped me with this one too. Now, the history. I think around the year 2003, Mr. Gorst Duplessis, or Dr. Gorst Duplessis of New Orleans, who's a master in this art. A master in this art. I don't know of anybody else in this art that can touch him. He's that good. Gorst was going to the AAW convention with the portable model lathe, similar to this. He had to get under 70 pounds, 70 pounds, to bring it on an aircraft. I saw the article, saw pictures. Gorst is a member of the Value Wood Tournament. Says, Gorst, bring a machine and show it at a club meeting. Gorst did. I didn't know what I was going to see. I didn't expect anything. I'd seen his art on the gallery, but never really could understand it. So I watched him do one piece. I took over 100 photographs that day of the machine that he had there. And I said, I am going home and building one of those. And my sidekick said, you don't know what you're getting into. 1, 2, 3. I didn't know what I was getting into. Honestly, I've been working with this machine for the past 10 years. It's a labor of love. I've got boxes of parts, I told you. I've got cutters, rigs, frames. I have 10 motors right here on the shelf. I have built about 20 of these machines. The frame. And what I build, the steel deck, the platform, the rocking head, the supporter for the templates, the basic weld-up parts. And I've given most of them away to friends. I've done them for some commissions. And I've got some friends hooked on it that really like it, enjoy it. But when we got into this, I decided this was a dying art that needed to be shared. And in order to share it, I'll share it with you. Here's the deal. I will give you a complete set of engineered plans to build this rig. A complete set of plans. Yeah, my partner in crime is one of the greatest CAD operators I've ever met. And he designs machinery every single day. So Charlie CAD'd this thing up. In fact, I was welding, grinding, and buffing on his while he was CADing on this. So Charlie CAD'd this thing up and made it to where you can follow along. You want a copy? I got to work on this cut. I'll tell you in a minute. To get a complete copy of the Lathezilla plans, and this is something you can work from. Got all the measurements, all the details on it. All you need to do is send me a $20 donation to Freedom Pens. You can do it through my website. And we'll help Freedom Pens for $20, and I'll send you a copy of these drawings. They're 15, 16 pages. Now, if you want a parts list, there's a parts list there. But some of the parts are now a little more readily available than when we put that package together several years ago. Like right now, David Lindau's got the cutting frames. Yeah, that's right. And there are folks on the internet that'll sell you the overhead and all the brackets and everything else. The motors, the drive motors are all available. And there's about a dozen people making those templates. Because all it takes is a really good CAD guy with an understanding of this and a CNC router and the right material, and some are made out of plexiglass, corian, etc., etc. I'm perfectly happy with these made out of masonite. Hardboard or hardened board, whatever. It's masonite. I picked it up on a job site. We had it laying down protecting a tile floor. I picked it up, cut it up in the squares, brought it to my guy, and he cut up patterns out of it. Whoop-dee. They're more than 10 years old. Alright. So go to my website and order that up. Now, this is a 1" by number 8 shaft. It runs all the way through. So I'm using Don pencil faceplate, some nuts and bolts I got from Granger, an old cross slide, the lever bar chuck, and this faceplate. I like this faceplate because I can just stick things on here with double stick tape, and I have them right where I want them at, easily changeable. I'll show you this. And while we were talking, working our way through this thing today, that's what we made. Doesn't look like much, huh? Well, I'm going to take the double stick tape off the other side, because I can replace that. Do you know Lowe's quit handling this sure stick tape? I got to find you another source for it. Some really good stuff, and I got to find another source before I run out. All right, now I showed you the back side, right? Not impressive. Look at it from the front side. Now that will get you the oohs and the ahs, and you just did it. It's 15 minutes worth of work after you made the disc. It's double stuck tape to a faceplate, cut with a cutter. I don't polish it, shine it, or anything else. You're looking at a gorgeous piece of ornamented work. Now, I will take this. Well, I'm going to show you on a Ustream on Saturday. I'm going to take it, put the receivers in it, make this the top after I dome it and polish it out, and we're going to have the lid for a jar. Nice, huh? Yeah. And I took my toothbrush and used a little, and got down and took a look at it, and I am dead center on a cross. Now it really shows up on the positive side, on this side. That does. Now I've been asked, how do you clear that? I've cleared it a couple of times simply by dripping some of the superfine super glue on it and getting it out, and the super glue took out the grooves and the scratches. But I can tell you, when I sell them at art shows and I have this in a piece, this gets the attention. Now, I've also done a handful of art pieces using it, hanging accents inside of a piece and then turn the piece out and polish it out. Yeah, I've inserted this disc into the side of a piece, turned it out, and then polished it out. So this is the eyeball into the world. I didn't call it that, okay, because that's a gross name. So, well, thank you for joining me today as we made these little bitty fine shavings on Lathezilla. And I got a chance to explain a little bit more about the machine, showed you some projects that come off of it. And again, if you're interested, go to my website, here, this website, this one right here, yeah. Where? This one, yeah, www.eddiecastelin.com. Go to products and services. There are Lathezilla plans on that page. And if you want the little bitty cutters to fit on your fly cutter, or you know somebody that's an ornamenter and they'd like to get some, I don't know of anybody else in the entire world selling them for $3 a piece in a pack of 10. I don't know. If they are, let me know about it. I'll probably cut the price. As long as it's fairly advertised and all that crap, okay? You take care. Be good now. You know what? If management sees this, she'll be expecting another ring box with another ring. This ain't going in the house. Nope. See you later.